Welcome back to her Third Act Podcast, Episode 2 with Molly Cate. And this is part 2 of her episode. Thank you.
And I didn't really want my son to have to move around a lot. So
Yeah.
I thought, all right, when I moved to Nashville, I thought I kind of want to go to California eventually. My sister had lived there. And when I went out there, like the race thing was so fascinating to me. I was like, nobody really seems to care out here. I know racist tendencies now. I know it exists everywhere, but for someone that had lived in like the Midwest or Southeast their whole life, and then you go out there and you're just like, whoa, this is half the time you don't even know what race people are by looking at them. I was blown away by that. I had never been around that before. I was like, people are like this
Right.
caramel color, and who knows? Yeah, so anyway, I said, all right, I had a buddy, how Nashville's a networking town, that worked at this consulting firm, public relations firm, that I really liked because they never pitched me stories that were like producty. Let me tell you why you should write about this. What they
Hmm.
did was they would do these mergers and acquisitions. So they had this model of like, let's take a political campaign approach to these
Ah.
situations, right? So it was always
Mhm.
situational, either a crisis or a merger or something that wasn't permanent. And we're gonna do this intense model. So you go through the timer, the message, the messenger, how many different vehicles are we gonna hit them with? How do we spread it out? Communication vehicles, not cars, I should say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
How many different types of ways can we communicate? I think I slipped back into old lingo there for a minute. How do we reach people? How do we measure the,
Yeah, it was a campaign for sure.
yeah,
Yeah. I love that.
I always liked intense things, So I thought, okay, let me try this. Let's see, what that would be like. So one of my friends that worked there went to work for our then Governor Bredesen, so a spot opened. And he was like, they want to build a healthcare practice. And you've been a healthcare reporter for a few years now, everybody, the industry. And I really did. I went all into this healthcare thing. I was
Right.
reading earnings reports and, I was just like fascinated by this huge part of the economy in the US um, that was really fucked up. And there was like
Yeah.
billions of dollars being spent on this vital service that every single person needs and is impacted by. And it was a complete shit show, you know? But then there were all these like really smart people trying to figure out how to make it work better. And I was like, all right, I can get in with this. And so that's how I made the leap. I went and I liked those
Love it.
people. They were like, we're going to build this out. Come join us. And so my very first assignment was in the deep south and involved a first time female CEO, and it was wild, and religion, and
Oh, wow.
I was like, well, this is even more exciting than what I ever thought would have happened as a reporter, you know? And so, yeah, I felt really needed, because it was like big shit is going down. And how do we explain this in a way
Yeah.
that helps people, that helps people? And so it helps nurses be able to do their job better because they're at ease. It helps the community understand why the hospital has to sell, or maybe, it's a different kind of crisis or whatever. But so I felt really needed and it was important. And I got to travel around and I really dug it for a long time.
How long did
And
you do it?
so we started the company in 2006 and I left 3 years ago. So a long
Okay.
time. Yeah. Uh, and
16 years. About 16 years.
mhm.
Wow.
You do a whole other podcast on all the things I learned about myself in the business world, but um, how to lead people. Oh my God, there's so many things. Confidence. Just I could go on and on about that.
But when did you
Yeah.
feel powerful? When did you feel lost?
Okay. So I felt really powerful for a long time. I was like making
Yeah.
shit happen. I was making more money. We started our company with 6 people. And, when I left, we had like around 80, you know?
Wow.
So yeah, we were
Oh,
in
Molly.
top 10 healthcare communication firms in the United States. And boom, I loved being an entrepreneur because it was like always a new challenge. You never knew what was going to happen. I liked that, going back to the journalism thing, you know, um, like chaos and things that are unforeseen. That was sort of my specialty. I really like that. I started to feel, um, so as I mentioned before, I like intensity, This is something I've had to work really hard on in my life. I I started to feel burned out, you know, and exhausted. And while I was like growing this company and traveling all around, I also had my son, I was raising like alone, um, like 100% alone. And
100%.
so I found that my ability to like show up, be all in, work hard, try to fix everything, you know, be the person that makes things happen, go 110% all the time, prove your amazingness to everybody, handle everything. Um, that shit wasn't working for me anymore, I was
Yeah.
like really tired. I was drinking like way too much. I very much had this like work hard, play hard mindset. Um, as my son got older, I found that all these things that I did was really rewarded for at work didn't work out so well with him. He didn't want to be fixed. He didn't want to be managed all the time. He didn't, you know, want to be perfect. He didn't really appreciate me wanting him to be perfect. Um, I think a lot of things that I had stuffed down just kind of switching into a personal level here, a lot of the trauma things I had stuffed down that had happened in my early adulthood and early 20s, losing my mom, everything with my son's dad, like all this, his sperm donor or whatever you want to call it, all this shit just started to kind of like come up. And so, like all women, I really love my hairdresser. So I'm in there one day. This is like a person, we spend a lot of time with.
You're right.
I've
Yes.
been going to see this lady forever. I don't know, some years. And I thought, like, wow, she really had a front row seat to all my shit. We're still friends, by the way. So she says to me, this is in like maybe 2000 and I don't know, let's say 14-ish. She says, hey, I think you might be interested. I think you might benefit from these 21-day meditation challenges I've been doing with this guy, Deepak Chopra. And I was like, what? Meditate? I do stuff, you know?
Right.
And, but I think a piece of me knew that like something wasn't working anymore. I also felt like really lonely, even though I was around people all the time. But I just have always had this, I got to do everything myself, And so, anyway, stillness and silence was not something I had ever experienced. Now,
Mm.
I'll add one more thing in here is I was also extremely overweight. I could never find a way to balance myself with the drinking, with the food, with, being on. I was either like on or off. And in my
Yeah.
off periods, I was eating and drinking and partying. And, it was like, so I just was like really frustrated with myself. Because like inside, I'm this little kid that wants to move and explore and, do all this stuff. And so anyway, stillness and silence, not something I ever had any experience in. I thought it was like a completely foreign concept, but I was desperate enough to try it. And so she gave me these CDs. This is back in the day. And it might have even been earlier, I guess, than 2014, because did we have CDs back then? I don't know. But anyway, you could access them online, but she gave me these CDs. And so each meditation was like, I don't know, maybe 14, 20 minutes, something like that. And it was mainly guided in a different person that worked at this Chopra Center would guide the meditations. So it was kind of cool because, if it was the communications person, their meditation would kind of be related to what they do. And then, vice versa, kind of all around these different topics. So I sit in this little corner of my bedroom in the morning, and I don't know, there's just something about it where I was like, well, I kind of dig this, and I learned all these things like, how to sit in silence, how to listen for silence in your ears, how to follow your breath in and out of your body, how to feel grounded in your feet, like um, I was always prepared for the next thing and moving and just, so
Yeah.
I hadn't really thought about this in a long time, but it really had a profound impact on me. And I didn't do it like every day or anything like that.
Yeah.
I would mess around with it for a while and get out of doing it, for years. And then I'd come back and do it some more. And I kind of would ebb and flow in and out. I would find temporary relief from it. So then I'd go back to my old ways, you know, and, uh, and that kind of thing. And
So
so,
you started doing this while you were still what I'm calling the rat race. Like you were still
yeah,
in your company.
yeah,
So you start okay.
yeah.
And then but what led you, I guess this will probably take us to your third act. Like what led you to leave your company? So I want to stop here to point out that at this point in the interview, Molly really shares some valuable information about her life that we all can learn from. And so, but for the purposes of this podcast, we're going to call this her third act. This is where she seems to transition on the path that led her to where she is today. And it's so powerful. And I love some of the things she says. And so get a note, get a notepad and and a pen and take notes because she dropped some gems here.
Mhm.
I mean,
Well,
because I'm sure. Okay, so I think you told me you left your company 3 years ago.
mhm.
So your son was grown,
Yeah.
right?
I will
So
just add kind of one thing in because
yeah.
it's right up to this transition. Two things. Number one, you were asking me this last week, and I really thought about this a lot. Or whenever we talked last, we did a little in our little pre-call. It wasn't really like one thing, It was like a lot of suffering and like going in and out of like, oh, this is what I want to do and this is who I want to be. And then I'm going back to being down on myself. And like it was a lot of that for a long time. But when I got to sit still and start meditating and being in stillness, I goes back to these questions, I created some space for myself. So like
Mm.
all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, over time, I was able to think like, okay, well, like, why do I work so hard? Why am I trying to control my son and fix him all the time? Why do I fix everything? Why is that my response?
Uh,
And why do I
oh,
do
I love that you created space. Oh, that just gives me chills.
that?
You created space for yourself. I love that.
So then it was like, oh, in these silence, these pockets of silence, it was like, and they would talk in these meditations about learning to become an observer of your life versus
Mm.
a doer, so that you see there's some separation between all the doing and then like who you really are, And like, so there's the observer and the doer, and I was the doer, not the observer. And so I slowly over time, and that led me down a lot of different paths. I got back into therapy. I decided I had a problem with drinking. I got sober. I got really into fitness. Now this is over like a decade, that I'm telling you all this, or 8 years or so. I don't know. I would need to go back and look. But so it was like I chipped away at this shit for a long time. To make a long story short, my dad got dementia. My son went away to college. I was like, went through that whole thing. Who am I if I'm not this mom? And, like life. And I didn't get the same reward that I got from work. And I started to think of it over time as like, okay, you know what? This served a purpose for me. It gave me a platform, it gave me money, it gave me my identity, it gave me a way to serve the world. I really do believe that communications makes things better and
I
it
do
makes
too.
healthcare better. Yeah. And I was like, this gave me a way to like a foundation for my life. I had to learn discipline. I had to learn how to manage people, how to show up, how to be accountable, how to like not be a micromanager, all these things we learn about ourselves in business, right? And so um I like, well, wow, my life is a lot different now. I don't have these same needs. I've learned these things about myself. What do I just started asking these questions of like, what do I want my life to be like? How do I want to show up in the world? What do I want to like? How could I serve? Like,
Mm.
how can
Mhm.
I like, because you go through this phase where you're building, right? You're building, building, building. And then it's like, okay, well, now what? Like, and for me, I started thinking like, so many people helped me along the way. So many, I've always been a learner and a connector and so it's kind of like, a real desire to serve and to like put something out there in the world that could help people. I do feel like as humans, we're all suffering to some degree. The Buddha says it, and it's like some of us are suffering in more than others and in different ways, but it's part of like the human experience, we
Yeah,
can't escape
right.
it. So I
Yeah.
started asking these questions. And I guess the last thing I'll say on this is in healthcare, particularly, I saw that people were not getting healthier. We spend all this money as a country. It's like 20% of the gross domestic product of the United States, and we're not getting healthier. And so I thought, I with all due respect, I kind of don't want to be a part of this anymore. What I would
Mhm.
like to do is to help people figure out their shit and how to be more present and alive and engaged in their lives so that they can start asking these questions. They can start, you know, crafting a more mindful existence and maybe get healthier along the way, being in the body, moving, listening to the wisdom of the body, like, these conditions that I was able to develop for myself over time. If I can put that out there in a way that would help other people, like that became more of a motivator to me than
Mm.
staying in the system. Our company sold. We found a wonderful buyer for that, and so it seemed like a natural point for me. I stayed for a few years after that, don't get me wrong, and had the opportunity to stay further. Like it wasn't a necessity thing, but it was just
Mhm.
a really like, what do I want my life to be like? I've sat in conference rooms and I've traveled, I got to go overseas, I've won awards, I've, built a company, I've done this, and I'm really thankful for it. And the work was meaningful. And I just wanted my life to be different. Um, and I wanted to be able to help people in a way that, like, the things that had worked for me, how could I put this out there in a more meaningful way? Like, we're all in this rat race, as you say, and we're all in the noise and thinking we're not enough or thinking we're amazing and we don't understand why things aren't lining up for us and whatever, like we're in this together. And
Yeah.
so I developed some tools over time that I felt like I could help people. So it's kind of where I'm at now. Um, I left the job. My dad died. I went and traveled around for like a year, worked a lot of that out. Dipped my toe into doing a lot of dating, not something that I had done before. Then I learned, oh wow, I still have a lot of work to do on myself. um, and I got really into, I did a meditation teaching training certification. That took a while. I traveled to Costa Rica and did a certification training in Qigong. All things that I had been dabbling in and had been interested in, but how could I really, and like, there's a saying about if you really want to learn something, learn how to teach it and master it. So
You're right.
um, So yeah, I also have spent a lot of time, understanding how energy works, not in like a wooey kind of way. Um, I just see this so much, especially with people in our bracket, let's say our age and gender
Mm-hmm.
bracket, like weighed down by life, you know? And things happen as a woman, it's like physically, image wise, mentally, we all go through, every woman I know, me included, goes through this thing of like, I've shown up for everybody else all along,
Every last
how
one of
do
us.
I
Yes.
do me? Yeah. And then
Yes,
I
ma'am.
think like we have all this wisdom from all these years of life. And it's the time when I see so many women like taking themselves off the shelf, And you're like, well, and so like being alive and having like vitality and energy for something besides like just making money and hustling and, you know, raising a family and doing the thing, like meaning, like this is the time in the life to search for meaning. And so I became really interested in like this sense of vitality and how to help people be alive and engaged. Because a lot of times in like this meditation world, it's all about calm down, sit, and
Yeah.
that's really important. Like I said, there
Yeah.
is magic in the stillness of space. That's where stuff happens, right? And
Right.
then it's like, okay, now what? You know?
Right.
So I've been just so studying Bruce Lee so much. He talks so beautifully about this being actively engaged in your life, and wanting to show up in a way that is like this relaxed awareness,
Mm.
so you care, you're perceptive, you're like, you're not checked out thinking like people ask me, so what do you do now? Do you just travel? Do you just, wake up every day on vacation? No. I'm not ready for that. I want to build something. I'm trying to do it in a more balanced way, in a place of coming from a place of like true authenticity of like, hey, this is the shit that worked for me. Let me share it with y'all in a way that's like, meaningful. But it's like just this sense of, I hope I'm capturing it accurately, but like of aliveness and vitality and like being engaged, moving the body,
Moving.
like understanding what we need at the time, like, am I feeling today like, you know, this is such a big thing. I don't know if you've experienced this, but I have. You get like an ache or a pain, and you go to a doctor, and it's like, oh, let's talk about menopause, perimenopause. Let's talk
Right.
about anxiety. You need these supplements, We don't need
Right.
another fucking supplement.
Right. Yeah.
We need to go
Yeah.
within. So
I
like,
love that.
yeah, and then maybe we need some supplements later. But
Yeah.
I don't want to come across as being like anti, but it's like, we just bypass this beautiful phase of our lives where we have all this wisdom, we have all this knowledge, and then so it's like, you know, let's go inward and let's be with it and move with it. Then we can figure out like, how do I want to show up in the world in a way that's like more me and not just out of necessity or what other people think I need to be, or, it's like, now's the time to
So
do
that
this.
is the question for me that I like, how do I want to show up in the world?
Yeah.
And when I look at your Instagram, um I somehow get energy from seeing you in different spaces,
Hmm.
beautiful spaces, whether you're on the beach, whether you're in Costa Rica, whether you're in East Nashville up against a mural, like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, you just in these spaces and breathing and moving, and it's just such a connection somehow
I
that I
love to
get.
hear this. Thank
I
you.
love that. I just, yeah, I love that, and I appreciate that. I do want to ask you, like, what made you choose, or did it choose you? Is it Qigong?
Qigong. Hmm.
Qigong?
Yeah.
Like, what made you?
Yes.
What drew you to Qigong?
Okay, so I love this because of what you just said, of like seeing movement, seeing space. So, on my path, I had been, I think like most of us, living my life really in my head, you know? And so, like, okay, then even with meditation, and by in my head, I mean, let me rephrase that, being analytical, trying to figure things out, always up here,
Yeah.
right? Not really understanding this or like my body as anything other than something that needed to be changed. I need to lose weight. I need to exercise. I need to stop drinking. I need to, it wasn't like looking at this as like a beautiful thing.
Right.
I was looking at it as like
Okay.
a project.
Yeah.
So even in meditation, like for years, I meditated sitting down in a chair or on the floor and trying to get its relationship with my thoughts, trying to quiet my mind, but everything's up here, right?
Yeah.
So I'm in Costa Rica like 5 years ago. This was before I left the job. And every year I go on this yoga retreat with women. I had really gotten into fitness and I just loved it. All right.
Hmm.
So my body's starting to change. I'm feeling all these things. And I'm on this yoga retreat and our yogi had a injury like before we went. So and she always calls in people like other practitioners to do cool stuff like at night or maybe in the morning or something. So sunset, this guy comes in and we're on this cliff, like this mountaintop in this yoga shala. And he's like, there was just really something about his presence that I felt, you know?
Yeah.
And I had been going into my heart. I had been doing a lot of therapy and like, unpacking all this trauma because I'm like, Miss No Nonsense, like, you don't need to look in here. Let's just work everything away and perform. And so I've been opening, and I think like in hindsight, the fitness was really helping me do that. I was working out a lot of shit while I was like punching these bags and lifting these weights. So it wasn't for me just like a superficial thing, like things were coming out in me. So this guy starts, we're doing this class and he's teaching us like how to breathe and move. And it's sunset. I'm watching this way off in the distance, the ocean. And I don't really know of any other way to describe it than just to tell you, like, I really felt something like I had really never felt before. Like,
Hmm.
oh, and I don't even really know how to describe it, but just like a zip, like, oh, this is, I'm like so chill. Like I'm
Yeah.
meditating, but I'm moving. Like, and you know how your girlfriends are. I was in the front of the class and I look back at them like, isn't this so cool? And some of them are like, no. Even this past like last month, I was on a retreat with some of them, and our yogi was kind enough to offer me opportunity to teach a class. And even one of them, I love it that she was so honest after she said, I never really understood what you liked about this in the first place. When we did it that time together, I was like, whatever. So I was like, but I was geeking out. And I just felt like really at ease and peaceful and like all knowing and I
Oh,
don't know,
all knowing.
just
Okay.
like I got this reprieve of like, I don't really need to figure anything out in this moment. I'm wise, I'm grounded, I'm steady, I'm standing here. My body's moving, my mind is calm. Like, I just felt, very grounded and wise and just like, I don't need to change anything, That's just like super fucking odd feeling for me. And I was really fascinated that I was moving when I felt this way because I had been trained as a meditator to sit, 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 you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I asked this guy afterward, to make a long story short, like, what is this? And who are you? And what do you do? And so he has a school there. I started following him. And I was still in the corporate job at the time. So I knew I didn't really have time to get into it. And I knew what I would do, which would be to go in and out for years. And so I just said, for once in my life, I did something different. Said, I'm just going to put this on my list. And when I get time, I'm going to really immerse in this. So every now and then I'd go, catch a video of his or something. And, but when I got through my first year and everything that happened with leaving the job, and my dad and all that, I went back to Costa Rica for a month and trained under him.
Oh,
And, um, yeah, I wish I could just like tell you all the beautiful ways it's changed me, but it really does something for me, you know? And I love it, and I've been studying it. I go to different places around here in Nashville and I teach. Um, you know, I've also come to learn to accept this about myself at this point in life is I kind of just have to do something for a while, but I'm not one of those people that like stops and thinks about things and then I have this brilliant insight and then, oh, I'm going to do this. Like I got to do
Yeah.
shit. I got to
Yeah.
try stuff.
You,
I got to suffer. I got to move.
yeah.
I got to have good experiences and then I figure out how to put it together. So honestly, Visha, giving myself permission to like build something this way versus, you know, a linear way has been a really profound exercise for me and understanding how to like trust myself and love myself and, you know, do it that way versus like, here's the plan. Here's the, you know, we're going to go hard. This is going to be amazing. Um, and so, yeah, that's been a big piece. So there's this quote that I read sometimes in my classes that I've really trying to live my life by, and I have it taped to my mirror in my bathroom. It's from the Tao Te Ching, and it's like, do you have the patience to wait till the
Mm.
mud settles and the water is clear, or your water is clear?
Mm.
Can you wait unmoving while the next right action arises by itself? The true master does not seek, does not force, does not expect. Instead, she, which I love masters being referred to as she, is present and can welcome all things as they arise. So,
Mm.
you know, I'm trying to build this thing this way. Being
Yes.
present, focusing on creating the conditions and not the outcome. Um, and understanding how to like really deliver it and teach it to people because it's sometimes if someone's, you know, sometimes it's like a fitness thing, sometimes it's a let's stretch and meditate thing, you know. Other times when you're working with a group of people, like I've had the opportunity to teach groups in different situations and you feel their energy like, oh, they, you know, we need to go this way, we need to calm things down, we need to get harmony. Other times they might need to be like enlivened, let's get things moving. So just
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
understanding how these things work versus my old way of forcing, you know, which is definitely where I lost myself with the forcing. I was a great forcer
Yeah.
in my life, and
Yeah.
I can fall back into that really easy, and it gets me on a dead end every time, you know? So letting things unfold, listening, being present though, like taking action. This is what I love about Bruce Lee is he's like, you don't just sit there, you know? And in fact, that's like the worst thing that you
You
could do.
definitely have a bias towards action. You
Yeah.
definitely, yes.
Mhm. So
Uh,
yeah.
yeah. And I know, yeah, I know you got a session soon. Um, but I do want to just repeat what you said because it seems so different than what we are talking when we talked about your second act, right? When you said you focus on creating um, the
Mhm.
conditions rather than the outcomes. And
Yes.
that just seems like such a different um, move in your life. You know, that is,
I have come to deeply appreciate that this, what you just said, will probably be the work for the rest of my life, to be honest. Like to live that way, you know, versus forcing everything to happen is really fucking hard. And for me,
yeah, yeah,
and it's so deeply ingrained in me, um, you know, that I can't change it. I have to chip away at it, you know, over
yeah,
time. And like, I'm pretty cool with that now. You
yeah,
know, I would never have been able to say something like that a couple of years ago. So there's something about having this practice, you know, where I can develop like literal structures in the body, you know, and
yep,
then observe. Like, you know, it's a metaphor for life. So yeah, I've come to accept that that's the mission, that's the key, you
yeah.
know, and it's not like this destination that I'm going to get to, you know, and then I'm going to be like, oh, check, you know,
Yeah,
on to the next thing. Because for a long time, I was in that self-help game for a while, always working on myself, always something new. And, you know, I don't look at it that way anymore now.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
like much differently about things like that. So,
Well, Molly, this has been a masterclass
hmm.
in self-discovery, self-healing, self-love. I mean, I did not anticipate um I mean just
I went down a lot of rabbit holes, I know, but
so I mean so much well just so many nuggets of wisdom and I mean and tools that you've offered. So I mean I'm gonna go back and watch this again because this is really good. I appreciate you, Molly, so much.
yeah,
And I
well,
do want to give a shout out to David Fox, who connected us over
yes,
10 years ago. And we, in our pre conversation, we both have said that David has, made a, was influential in both of our lives. You know,
100%. He is
yeah,
like so. One of the things that I really love about David Fox that I learned along the way is his ability to be like so honest, even when it's hard, and not, he was the person that like helped me get those interviews at the Wall Street Journal and stuff, and he was really open about the money situation in journalism. Like that was profound. He could have just
yes,
kept me there, stringing me along. So like he just is so honest, and I love
yes,
that about him,
yes,
and all about forward progress. You know,
yes.
which and not about being protectionistic. I think I just made up a word.
Hmm.
Um, but how do we move the ball forward in life? That's what he is about. Uh,
Yeah.
so I've always really admired that him, and
He
I'm
was just
thankful to him.
for me, I think he was just very objective, where I'm very touchy-feely, I wear my heart on my sleeve and
Yeah,
for him,
he's
the
super
heart,
objective. Yeah.
what does the heart have to do
Boom,
with
boom,
it?
boom.
Like,
Yeah.
right, exactly. Very linear, very, like you were saying earlier, like if you do this, this is going to happen, right?
Right.
Like if you make this decision, this action is, this consequence is going to happen. He was very binary in a lot of ways. But anyway, really made an impact in my life professionally and personally. And so I know he did for you. So I just wanted to give him a shout out for connecting us. And we're actually connected several years later. So I'm grateful.
Yes, same, same. And
Yeah.
really, I just can't tell you how much I love seeing the things, you talk about creating the conditions, like this podcast creates the conditions, for women, like women of all ages, not just in
Yeah.
our third act, like we all have different things to learn from each other, no matter what phase we're in. I really truly believe that. Um, but you create these conditions by bringing together this podcast, sharing your life the way that you do on social media in such a candid way of like, this shit is like, it's like funny sometimes, and then it's really profound others. It's real, it's honest, it's like,
Oh,
you
thanks,
know
Mom.
it's
Thank you.
it's a really beautiful thing. Like those are creating the conditions, I feel like, in a way to help people thrive, and just like, hey, I'm not alone. That's always a great thing we can never be reminded of enough. I'm not
Right.
alone. Yeah, I'm worthy. I'm gonna
Thank
try stuff, do stuff, live to my fullest. I'm gonna keep learning. These are the things I get from you.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm gonna
Keep
keep
learning.
learning.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna have fun. You have such a beautiful, like, your childlike spirit sometimes. I feel it come through. But
Oh, thank
it's not like empty silliness though. It's like, I feel it. It's like I've been through some shit, but now I'm having fun. And I'm
Exactly, Molly. Oh, you gave
so
me
good
chills
for
again.
energy.
Exactly. That's it. That's
Yeah.
it. That's it. I
Yeah.
appreciate you. I
Yeah.
appreciate you.
Same, same.